Welcome back to this F1 25 My Team Career Mode. This is part number 17 today for the start of Season 2. It is 2026 in-game, and last time out, well, it was the pre-season episode. If you haven't seen that, by the way, definitely go check that out. It was a hefty old video because there was so much admin and so much management and so much to run through going into this season, but I'll give you a little quicker rundown at the start of this one just to jog your memory from a couple of days ago. An all-new livery with plenty of new sponsors and variant sponsors around the car. A little bit of subtle modding to get my aarava logos on the car around, but overall, it's still using the base livery from in-game, the decal editor, which honestly this year is actually pretty damn decent, so I felt no need to do a full modded livery for this second season, just some slight additions. And of course, in the pre-season video, I finally revealed to you guys my drivers for this season and gave you a whole recap from halfway through Season 1 till the end of it, of what was going on in the background. I kept you guys in the dark on purpose, just to keep you guys guessing and have a little bit of air of mystery about it, but in the end, for the first time in my whole history of doing career modes, I retained my teammate, my driver lineup in this game mode with two drivers to sign, because I feel there is so much unfinished business with Jenson Button on his return to Formula 1 with this team, and Tramnitz, of course, just becoming a favourite of ours. We're going to keep him on for one more year at least. The same can't be said of plenty of other teams. Red Bull making a massive change in their driver lineup, signing Oscar Piastri. We had big changes at Mercedes with them booting out their rookie Antonelli in favour for Carlos Sainz, making the rumoured real-life potential transfer a real deal in the game. Antonelli found his feet at Haas. It's all good. Williams got together Albon and Tsunoda as they try and build upon their Season 1 performance. Aston Martin, all change. Lance Stroll out. Alonso retired. Lawson and Colapinto in. A very surprising double signing for Aston Martin. And of course, we know how far McLaren have fallen. Well, they've fallen so far to sign Lance Stroll alongside Lando Norris, and in contrast, the reigning Constructors' champions see no reason to change. It is still Leclerc and Hamilton, now donning a yellow and red 17 Constructors' Championship special livery for the season to celebrate, and Audi enter Formula 1. Well, I think that's the best I could do with wrapping up everything we went over in the pre-season video, but honestly, there was so much good stuff and twists and turns in that one, so definitely, if you haven't seen the whole thing, you're still wanting a bit more context and a bit more story to all the things that have happened going into this season, definitely do check that out. It will make it a lot more immersive. But as ever in Formula 1, we start a new season and everything gets reset to zero. That is the beauty. You all start from the same point at the start, and it's anyone's game. It's a stab into the unknown, and we're going to stab straight into the contract window because it's only the first episode of the second season, but I have already initiated talks with a second driver. We still have our talks from last season with Antonelli, but Behrman, if you've realized, he got booted out of Haas to make way for his old F2 teammate. I feel a bit harsh, and also that's just peak for them personally knowing each other like that and having to deal with that. But Behrman is now a free agent, so I think, we already know. I've told you guys, I want to just get one race win again with Jenson Button in his career with us, Aarava Archer Racing, and then I feel like I'll be happy with whatever happens with the driver lineup. That's the unfinished business. And after that, into Season 3, I think someone like Behrman could be a great candidate, especially because he's a free agent. If he wasn't a free agent, I wouldn't have probably gone for him, but the fact that he has not got a drive on this grid is a travesty, so I think we should definitely pursue him. Because we also won't be stepping on anyone's toes. He's just free to the market. He's sat at home doing nothing right now. So I think, hopefully you'll agree, I think that seems like a really logical good step. You know, there was no logic involved in me re-signing Button. That was a signing from the heart. But logically, Behrman as a free agent is really a really solid option. But that's then. There won't be any further developments with that until we actually start getting in towards the contract window for this season, which is halfway through this point. So enough of the driver chat. We've secured our lineup for this season. It is Button and Tramnit all the way, and I'm very happy with this. And we're going to be kicking off this season, this time driving as Tim Tramnit, our fan favourite F3 signing. Let's go.
And a warm welcome, everybody. We're here in the heart of Melbourne. It's Albert Park, and it's qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix.
It's always an exciting time when we load into that first race weekend of a new season, because you really don't know how it's going to go, because we've got changes in R&D for every single team over the winter break. We've changed our engine supply. That was something I didn't cover in the recap of the pre-season video. We're now powered by Mercedes. We've got AMG badges on the top of the chassis. So this was also going to be an interesting drive for me, because this is our first time with the Mercedes power unit on this game at all, really, because I've not done any other real gaming on F125 apart from my team. So I literally have only driven a Honda power unit on F125 the full game, and I've got to say, I was surprisingly shocked how different this car felt in terms of the drivability and, like, you know, going down the gears, the way the engine went down and ticked down and revved up out the corners. The Mercedes power unit, I don't know if any of you guys have had this sort of comparison yourselves, but if you go from Honda to Mercedes, wow, it's such a smoother experience. The car feels so much more timid as it winds up through its power. Like, the torque delivery just seems so much smoother from the Mercedes engine. At least that's in my opinion. It might also a tiny bit be, you know, the one or two little downforce upgrades we brought over the winter break, but we didn't really gain that much over the winter in terms of R&D. We pretty much plateaued in comparison to other teams like Red Bull, for example. So, you know, I was very surprised as we see the Aston Martins get knocked out. So the Aston Martin team may be technically third on paper on the R&D chart, but we saw plenty of times in Season 1, they just can't seem to get the car set up right, and they have some horrible Saturdays, whereas the opposite can be said of the likes of Williams, who are consistently making use of their car, doing as well in the top 10. You think Alpine are wanting to carry on from their 2 wins in a row and start 2026 off with a solid start, and we are going to do the same as we traverse this circuit a bit quicker on that second flyer and get ourselves firmly up into the top 10 shootout. Both of us are showing the car in this session legitimately was there. Verstappen is through. Unfortunately, though, Red Bull's new signing, Piastri, he's going to be really frustrated. He's knocked out. Ferrari, one of the Ferraris are knocked out. Hamilton is out. Only Leclerc and Verstappen from those two teams are through. Both Mercs are through, so Carlos Sainz through in his new Silver Arrow, and Tsunoda showing real good pace in the Williams, and it's only Doohan through for Alpine. So Gasly, to be fair, remember in the last race of the season, Gasly was knocked out in Q1, and then he made his way all the way up to first place. So we know Gasly can overtake in the race, and you know, we also know plenty of times the qualies have been pretty mad on this game. Honestly, there is no form guide sometimes. Some of these guys just find time out of nowhere, and that's pretty much the opposite of this Q3. Is the sun sets. I only had one set of soft tyres, and unfortunately it just wasn't a great lap. P10. I looked at the numbers though. If I had set my best time of the day, which was that second Q2 run, I would have only got P10 again, or just about P9. So everyone else just found so much more time. So we did well to get into the top 10 shootout, but realistically, all these teams ahead of us, and maybe apart from the McLaren, are quicker than us on the R&D chart, so we can't be too disappointed. Tsunoda is going to be reveling in a second row start in the Williams, and Sainz will be, well, I don't know how he's going to feel. His old team has beaten him by 1 position, but he's beaten his new teammate Russell, so he's got to be happy. And the reigning world champion Verstappen is on pole, but the reigning constructors car is there on the front row. Let's go to the grid for the first race of 2026.
No more testing, no more practice. this is the real deal, and it's make or break here at round 1 of this year's Formula One World Championship. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. World champion Max Verstappen starts from pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Tsunoda, Sainz, George Russell and Albon, Norris, Button, Tremnitz and Lewis Hamilton, Piastri, Gasly, Lance Stroll and Antonelli, Ocon, Doohan, Liam Lawson and Franco Colapinto, Bortoletto, Aaron, Hulkenberg and Isaac Hadjar rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me in the commentary box today, former racing driver herself, Naomi Schiff. So a new driver signed for next season, which is good news all round. Or is it? Halfway through a campaign, how does a team cope with that?
Yeah, it's a really aggressive decision. And to announce it that early, I guess you kind of raise the question, why did they do it? But this is a driver that's really sought after. So I kind of understand why they would want to bag that driver as early as possible, but hopefully for them that doesn't cause too much distraction and they make sure they keep their team right now motivated until the end of the season.
Coming back now a season later to this Australian Grand Prix, we now know we want to probably be aiming for a one-stop, and by the choices everyone's made, I reckon most of us have got our cars with the R&D, with the tyre upgrades to a point where we could just about pull off one stop. It's still going to be difficult, don't get me wrong. I don't think we'll find tyre wear easy until about maybe season 3 or 4 when we have the maximum tyre upgrades on the game. That's how, aggressive it's been so far, which has been great for strategy, great for just, actually having a bit of skill about saving the tyres. But it's going to make things tricky, but I think all of us will be trying that from a medium to a hard. As we near the end of the formation lap, our mind just goes to getting that race start correct and, feeling all the, the ambience in the air for a brand new season 2026, an R&D reset to the aero and the engine, plenty of driver transfers. We've got all the ingredients for a great recipe for a great second season on F1 25, my team career mode. So there's only one thing to do now for the 22 drivers on this grid, looking ahead to those 5 little red lights. And the 2026 season is underway. It's a good getaway for myself and Button. It's a real slow one for the pole sitter, I think, who's held up Tsunoda as well. We've gone round the outside, or tried to, of the McLaren, but it's so tight on the exit of turn 1. Verstappen gets away well, though. It's still the same top 2. Sainz overtaking Tsunoda in his new Mercedes up to 3rd place. Russell and Albon going toe-to-toe, and I think Russell will get the better of his respective Williams. So the Silver Arrows both move up 1 position each. We've moved up ahead of Lando Norris. Button pressurising the McLaren right now, and all in all, it's a pretty clean, good getaway, and a decent getaway. I thought we maybe could have finished off the move on the McLaren earlier and then been on the back of Albon already, but we'll settle into a rhythm, compared to this time in season 1 where I was, so in the unknown about how this race would go. Now I'm comfier with the car, comfier with the game. We are a bit more confident in ourselves and our driving, so now we just get our head down and move forwards as Button is going to try and do the same. Looks like Lando Norris has been in the wars a little bit. Button on the outside, Lando with a bit of damage, and Button gets up into P8, so a solid 7-8 at the moment. Is Gasly and Hamilton are side by side on the opening lap. Hamilton on the outside. What commitment there from the Brit. Gasly, the man who comes into this season with 2 wins in a row to end season 1, struggling to break the points, but both of them a little bit out of place with the qualifying. Piastri as well into P9 now, so all 3 of them I suspect will be looking to catapult themselves up the order, as Antonelli at the moment is leading his more senior teammate in his new Haas car as we go back to our POV, and we're trying to stick with Albon, Russell and Tsunoda, but Honestly, that's the correct language. Trying to stick with them because genuinely the Williams look so strong. We're technically still in a rivalry with that team, but I don't know how much we're going to be able to keep up with them. We'll try our best right now, as I think there's going to be a move ahead of us. There definitely is a move going on for P3 as Sainz goes round the outside of Leclerc. Sainz into second. Sainz in the Mercedes is cooking Hamilton on the inside of Gasly for the P10 position as we get to the inside of Albon. He tried to give us a squeeze, but we have enough base.
Looks like a mechanical failure. We're going to have to ask you to find a safe spot to retire.
Oh my god, no! The worst possible way to start a season and end the first round. We had just made a move, but it won't matter. None of it will matter. Our first race is over. We've got an engine failure. The new Mercedes power unit in the back of Tramnit's car has failed us. As we retired, it was Verstappen from Sainz in second, Leclerc, Russell fourth, the two Williams, Button up to seventh. Piastri looks like he was just about to make a move on Button, so I suspect Piastri will be confident about recovering in this race. The same for Hamilton and Gasly potentially, but for me, the race is done. Wow, I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it's never the way you want to start a brand new season, but that is how the cookie crumbles. Formula One is a cruel sport, and we have been denied a fairy tale start to this second season.
The checkered flag is out. We're going to be hearing that Dutch national anthem again because it's victory for Max Verstappen.
Well, they kept us guessing during pre-season testing. We all wondered who it was going to be, and to have them draw it out here today, that they are the ones to beat, just goes to show that all the work they put in has really counted.
So the reigning world champion takes the race win. Piastri on his Red Bull debut gets back up to second to make it a strong 1-2 start. But we know that this means nothing over the course of the season. Based off season one, the R&D can go crazy. It's a great recovery drive for the likes of Franco Colapinto, who got points in the Aston Martin. JB finished pretty smartly in 8th place, so I'm pretty happy with that he held down points even with the rest of the race being simulated. It was points on debut for Sainz and Mercedes there. So all in all, as a team, it could have been a lot worse. The fact we scored points is great, but it's just not the way I wanted to start this season. It's unfortunate, but I'm not going to leave you guys hanging with such a short start to Season 2. We are going to press on in this same video and go on to round 2 because I'm hungry for some actual full racing and getting one full race under our belt with the new Season 2 car and really, getting to grips with where we might be on the grid. So, if anything now, this allows us to plow straight into some more upgrades. We've got some research on the go for the aero side of things. I think we've got a breakthrough upgrade, don't we, for the chassis side, but I think I might want to do a powertrain as well because as well as, trying to reduce the weight of this car further, I think we want to get some ERS upgrades on the board. We've maxed out those ERS upgrades, so we went ahead and purchased the next weight reduction upgrade. We do have a chassis breakthrough on the way, and we also have a powertrain breakthrough now on the way. We just got done with 2 corporate upgrades, by the way, over the course of preseason to here. So for the first time, we're maybe nearing phase 2 for the corporate, maybe phase 2 for personnel as well, because we've got a decent amount of cash still in this team that I think we just definitely need to deploy as best we can, especially if, we're going to have so many other teams being competitive. Aston Martin and Colapinto's recovery in that race, in the simulated race, was impressive. And clearly, in the actual race itself, before we retired, Williams were very, very strong. Alpine, a little bit stumbling into this season, but I think when they find their feet, clearly from Season 1, they've got the means to upgrade fast, and they look scary at the end of Season 1. So I think you'd be foolish to count them out for this season. I would be foolish to count them out. But for now, they have had a bit of a slower getaway, as we do have some good news. How about this? Off the back of retirement, the retirement is clearly not, being a downer on the team's prospects. We've got a new title sponsor approaching us, Duotone, an audio technology emporium established in 2001. A nice little backstory to all these title sponsors. So right now, X4MIG are our title sponsor, but we're reaching the end of what we could do with them, with the loyalty bonuses. Maybe maybe it's time, you know, for Season 3, that next step, take a new title sponsor, one we haven't seen so far in the game. So, you know, the viewer that commented it, and, you know, we were correct that there are going to be new title sponsors that unlock as we go on through this series. So that's quite exciting to maybe think about in a future episode. For now, that's just on the back burner. There wasn't any other email follow-up. And as we carry on with the activity timeline, we do bring in that corporate upgrade, the outreach group, the engineering upgrade through the breakthrough to the chassis, and the powertrain breakthrough will come through in a sec as well, so we can drill in to some more research. We've also got parts to develop now, the drag reduction we did in the winter break, and I'm actually going to use this single development twice over to try and get it done for both cars in time for Japan. So that's, you know, that's what I was mentioning in a previous video about the dual development. It's great to give parity, but because it takes longer, sometimes if you've got the slots available, definitely worth to do two single developments, to just stack them and get them both done quicker if you've got the slots available. Obviously, if you've got various different upgrades you want to put on the car, then it might make more sense just to do single ones and, you know, give one driver an advantage. But I wanted parity going to Japan, especially after the way that Australian Grand Prix went. I wanted us to be as strong as possible for that second race, because JB did a great job to get points, but ultimately we didn't, you know, get to the maximum I was hoping for in that race, which was double points. I really feel like we were on for double points, but it is the way it goes. We bring in now the powertrain upgrade on the facility side of things. So we're going to go ahead and look to purchase an ERS upgrade. Not quite yet, because we can't afford it because of those latest purchases I made. So for once, I'm actually waiting on earning R&D. But we do have cash to spend, so I thought we may as well buy a couple of more upgrades to improve the engineering side of things. Just some of the smaller, cheaper upgrades. And then to my surprise, we get this pop-up.
Hey boss, really pleased to say that early talks have progressed well, and we're now in a position to have a first meeting with them to learn more about what we're each after. It's a bit of a dance, but it'll be worth it, I think. And remember, it doesn't bind us to them. We can always go elsewhere.
So it looks like the engine failure, round one of a new season, didn't, you know, dissuade Tramnet, so we're starting the talks early. I think this is because I've done so many training perks on my owner area to personnel that these initial talks with our own drivers are happening really soon and really quickly compared to Season 1, I believe.
Things are progressing well. We've got a bit more into the weeds of discussions following that first early meeting. In a good way, you know. Details. I'll keep you posted. It's not over the line yet.
And with JB's early talks coming up now, and obviously he would take longer because he's higher rated, I definitely think now the owner perks we've got have sped up these negotiations, or these chats rather. No negotiations yet, no counter offers or offers have been sent yet, but these are just, you know, initial chats. And that might mean we are due for an initial chat with, you know, Antonelli again, or maybe Ollie Behrman again soon enough as our personnel upgrade comes in, driver psychologist. So that's going to be an aid to the focus of both of our drivers, which is really important, even more than ever on this year's game. But yeah, we're not too far off having some initial chats with Behrman, which will be good to just have on the back burner, floating around, ready for that contract window to open about halfway through this season. To be fair, again, it seems kind of mad we're discussing that at such length in, you know, the first episode of a new season, but it's the way it goes now with the system, the way it works. It's much more realistic that, you know, you don't wait till right at the end of the season to start these talks. You start them early, although, of course, you know, whether I show you guys the talks happening or not, remains to be seen. Actually, let me know. We're in the middle of this video, so I know if you're still watching at this point, you're dedicated to watching these videos. Let me know. Did you enjoy not knowing what I was doing with the driver contracts until the preseason, or would you rather know as I'm doing it? Because I felt like it's, although realistic to do the contract talks in the middle of the season, it kind of, you lost that kind of unknown factor for you guys as a viewer for the series. So let me know if you liked what I did with not showing you guys that until the preseason, or if you want me to actively show me doing it as we go on through the season. This is what the R&D chart looks like at the moment, just kind of confirming basically where everyone was going into Australia. We don't get the update into Japan until after we've done the race weekend, which I really hope they bring in for a patch to kind of change that so we can look at this chart once you load into the race. Speaking of loading into the race, here we go then. Second race weekend of of the day because of that engine failure, and because we didn't get enough laps done with Tramnits, we're going to go and drive as Tramnits again.
A warm welcome, everybody, from a venue that has seen plenty of sensational laps over the years. Remember, Verstappen in 23, Vettel in 2019, some phenomenal pole laps. But whose will it be today?
So I can tell you, going into this race weekend, you may have noticed on the intro there to qualifying, it's overcast, it looks a bit doom and gloom, and there is some rain forecast for later this race weekend, specifically for race day. So I cannot believe it. We're starting season 2 in the most difficult fashion and scenario. An engine failure off rip in the first race, and then the second race we do immediately it might be a wet race, which if you followed along in season 1, you know the AI are incredibly overpowered in the wet on this year's game, and that hasn't changed after the first initial patch. So it's going to be potentially quite difficult in the first part of the race, and it's going to be more difficult for JB. What on earth is that qualifying, man? P20. I mean, he clearly hit traffic to be 2.3 off the pace, and I'm 1.5 off P1, provisionally in Q1. He had to be held up in traffic. That is abysmal, though. But again, that's what happens sometimes. It happens to some of our AI rivals sometimes. There's nothing we can do. And so Button's going to have a very difficult race, potentially, if it's raining as well, to make his way up the order. Or maybe not, you know? Jensen was always very handy in changeable intermediate conditions, which I think it might be. I don't think it's full heavy rain, but I think it might be inters to then dry in the race if I looked at the forecast, in the email system. So we'll see how that one plays out. But for now, we're just trying our best to get through into Q3. P9 on the board as we cross the line. Unfortunately, though, we just lost out a top 10 by 0.003 of a second to doing. Oh, that's painful, but fair play to Leclerc, I think it was, who was outside the top 10. He had to get a better lap time in. Piastri is looking really quick out there in the Red Bull P1, whereas Verstappen's down in P5. Russell will be frustrated to be knocked out, whereas Sainz has made it through in his Mercedes. Both Alpines through this time, so they've made up for that maybe stumbling start to the season. Lando Norris has done very well in that really dog of a McLaren now to get through, and at this point it's not a surprise to have Williams in the top 10. They are legitimately there as a team. Let's go to the grid and let's see how Q3 pans out.
No fewer than 12 world champions have been crowned at Suzuka, but who will be tasting glory today at the checkered flag? We're approaching lights out, and we can't wait for the Japanese Grand Prix. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, with Charles Leclerc alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Albon, Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda, and Hamilton. Norris, Gasly, Doohan, and Tim Tramnitz. Verstappen, Russell, Esteban Ocon, and Lawson. Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Lance Stroll, and Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Hadjar, Button, Aaron, and Gabriel Bortoleto rounds off the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
So thanks to an engine penalty, I think that is, Oscar Piastri is on pole position for the first time in his new Red Bull. That is pretty damn exciting. What isn't maybe as exciting is the thought of the start of this race in the first stint. It is raining. It is raining. And unfortunately, with the way the game is at the moment, I am not jumping for joy. In the past few games, I might have been at what we could do in these sort of changeable conditions, dancing the car around. But we just have to admit, we know this is going to be a difficult part of the race. The AI are really good in these conditions. And that adds to the challenge, and everyone who plays the game's in the same boat, so we just get on with it for now and we try and do our best. But we know there is a dry period at the end of the race, so it's basically about limiting the damage, I feel, until that part of the race, and then we can get to work. But honestly, I would be happy just finishing the race, to be honest, and getting to the checkered flag. As we go again for the second time in this video, let's try and finish our first race of Season 2 as we go to lights out, and we're underway for the Japanese Grand Prix in intermediate conditions. Everyone a little bit gingerly off the line. It's a slow one for Hamilton. There's a couple of cars trying to go side by side. We're on the outside, understeering off circuit, as well as Tsunoda. Good to know I'm not the only one who made that mistake. There was no grip on the outside. The brakes were cold as anything, and Tsunoda's lost out big time. He was in, I think, a top 4, wasn't he? And now he's down to P14. So, we've done well, actually, just to survive and still maintain basically where we were with a little off-track excursion as we see how exciting is this. Verstappen trying to dance his way through on the inside of Russell. These two have a history in real life. Well, here in the game, they're getting very close together in intermediate conditions, which can end very badly very, very quickly. But yeah, it's not a great getaway for JB either, as well as Tsunoda then. P21. And, he's nearly last place. There's only one car behind him. It's Bortoletto in the Audi. So, JB, please, man, find some of that wet weather magic you used to have in F1 and climb up the order. I'm begging you. And if not, then it's down to us then, I guess, to score points in this second race. Button already scored some in Australia. So, maybe he's having a day off for the rest of the episode. And it's our turn now. But we're already under pressure from the reigning champ behind us. And you know what? That new Red Bull livery, the Red Bull Ford livery, all in dark blue and silver linings, it looks menacing in the mirrors when I look behind you. It looks like an absolute evil devil that is about to come and attack you. And maybe that's the look Red Bull were going for here. Menacing as ever ahead of us. The two Alpines having a little look at each other. I feel like if Doohan and Gasly fight a bit more, maybe we could get in the middle of that as Sainz is pressurizing Albon. Albon running in a really great third place at the moment. Sainz outside the top 3 as it's Piastri, I can see for the first time now, in second place. So Leclerc off the line, I guess, and into the first few turns, overtook the Australian. So Leclerc and Ferrari lead the way, but big pressure from Piastri. Those two in a world of their own, pushing ahead by 1.5 seconds, nearly 1 and 2. So let's keep up with this and come back later to that fight and see if Piastri can retake the lead and show what he's got for once in the game so far in that much better Red Bull, as we now go for a lunge on Doohan. Catch him a little bit unawares. He was trying to give us the squeeze, but I don't think he thought we were going to commit fully to the inside there, but we had to go for it because I saw Doohan. He was clearly struggling for grip in general, and so if we didn't get past him now, it's going to just be Pain Town because he'll hold us up. Gasly with a half spin. Both Alpines are struggling for grip, and we get another position. It's a free one this time on Gasly up to P7. So it looks like it might just be a team thing. It might be Alpine struggling in the wet conditions because lo and behold, lap 8 then, a couple laps later, we're pushing away from Pierre. 1 second the gap now. So if there was DRS, we've broken it. There isn't, of course, because it isn't, but we're getting away. And Doohan is now under massive pressure from Russell. Verstappen also waiting in the wings to maybe make an overtake. Russell has to finish this off, though. On the inside, he taps Doohan wide. Oh, Jack is going to hate that. He's off circuit, and he's lost 2 positions, not just 1, as Lawson in the Aston Martin Honda. Now the Works Honda, obviously, the Honda only exclusively powering Aston Martin. This is their home race, the engine supplier. Lawson trying desperately to get up the order for P12, and Colapinto trying to mimic his recovery in Australia from outside the top 15 into points. Button has overtaken Hadjar, so he's made 1 position. It's some sort of progress, I guess. I fear there may not be a lot more, maybe after Aaron and Hulkenberg have been overtaken, as Verstappen now is all over the gearbox of Russell, but Russell surely going to be looking at Gasly because, yeah, these Alpines in the wet are struggling way more than I am, actually. So that's at least one good thing I've got going for me. As Lawson again tries it on the outside, but Ocon is holding firm as we come back to our POV to show you these rear tyres. Ay, ay, ay. For the first time, we're getting some real overheating on the internal carcass temperature. And that's because, actually, it is drying rapidly. And Mark, my engineer, has been telling me on the radio, be careful about burning out your tyres before we get to the dry period. Well, there was good reason for that audio line to trigger. Clearly, they were trying to push me to look at this tyre temp because, yeah, it's a little bit iffy and it's going to hurt us a little bit in traction zones. But I will try my best to hold on to P7 here and have track position for the dry period. But it's going to be tough. Russell comes at us on the inside. We're not going to fall for what he did to Doohan. He tries to push us wide, just like he did with Doohan. But we just have none of it. We swipe to the racing line and get to the apex. There's a little bit of argy-bargy into turn 1. But needs must when you've got a very aggressive Mercedes willing to push you off track to overtake you. And we also know the car right behind him is no stranger to pushing people off tracks to get the overtake done, as Verstappen is going to go on the outside of 130R. Brilliant overtake. It seems so simple there, but in intermediate conditions, or inters to dry conditions, when the grip isn't there, the inters are overheating, that is not an easy overtake to pull off. That is really impressive from Verstappen, and as we see his teammate there, still within half a second about to Leclerc. So the pressure's still on for P1, and the pressure is very much still on for me in P7. Verstappen on the inside, we're coming back at him. It's nearly 3 wide into 130R, and Russell, the wily old fox there, has pulled through and followed me through for the overtake as we gave the Red Bull the pinch into 130R to maintain. But for how long can we keep doing this? Because now there is a bit of a subtle train forming maybe behind, although to be fair, it's actually from the Alpines. I'm actually alone with Russell and Verstappen as it's 3 abreast momentarily once again. And oh, a bit of his own medicine. Russell is pushed off circuit by Verstappen. But yeah, it's is Lawson going to pull off the move? No, not quite. Lawson nearly did it, I think. He was actually, what was this? No, okay, it's a replay. And actually, it wasn't an overtake. No, oh, that's embarrassing. He was going for a move on Ocon and went wide. And so Tsunoda actually overtook him there. So the Japanese driver on home soil gets a little mini victory there. After that really torrid lap 1 for him, as Button does make another overtake in this race to be P19, as on lap 14, Verstappen now pushing past as the tyres are now starting to wear. Verstappen, aggressive as ever, completely shuts the door on me and takes me onto the serrated curbs, and I've got nothing there. I've been completely just pushed out of that one and bullied down to P9, but if I was them, I'd be doing the same thing, I can't even lie, because I frustrated the hell out of 2 quicker cars in the Red Bull Mercedes. So, GG's, fair play. We're down to P9. We held on for a while. I'm just praying for the dry period to come sooner rather than later. And later on that same lap action to the hairpin, I can see some clouds are parting. There is some sun trying to peek through. I swear, on the left-hand side.
Okay,
I asked my engineer about tyre status.
We see, but we think the slick might now be the quicker tyre.
And that is exactly what I wanted to hear, especially since now DRS is activated. And that may now just give Oscar Piastri a chance. Look at the Red Bull come alive with DRS open. Goes for the move. Piastri leads the Japanese Grand Prix for his new team. He's taken P1 back. It's taken 15 laps since the opening one, where Leclerc got the lead, but he's got it done. And DRS now is definitely going to aid some overtaking going on for any of the guys clumped up together. The 2 Alpines surely won't be able to hold off that train of cars. They were working together as a team pretty well. As we come in now for the dries, I've made the bold call. No one is in. I am the only man into the pits. I really wish I could kind of, gesture to Button to come in as well. I really do think that needs to be a feature in the future, is direct team management in the middle of the race, because if you're now just the team owner, it makes a lot of sense. But anyways, that's then. This is now, we're the only guy out. We've chosen the mediums because if you remember, in Season 1, we deduced that the hards are actually horrible around Suzuka and the mediums are the way to go around here for the balance of durability and pace. So even though there's a fair few laps to go, 12 of them, I think mediums all the way as we, just about make the move on Hajar there. Bloody hell, lost my breath just wincing at that as we dipped a tyre into the grass, and it's very easy to make a mistake in that part of the circuit as the car is just on the knife edge of grip as we now go for the move on the inside of the Audi of Bortoletto. Probably one of the few times we'll be racing the Audi in this season, and we're now in clean air, 7 seconds of it to push on and try and make the most of this outlap. But Piastri on lap 16 later for him, he does not come in. Leclerc's in, but Piastri carries on. That is a very interesting call from the race leader. Have Red Bull and Piastri made a mistake? I mean, let's see what Verstappen does. It might just be Piastri's call to make, that he feels confident enough in going longer. But what's the advantage of that? He's only going to lose time, surely, unless he thinks it's still a bit too wet out there. But I'm gaining a decent amount of time, and he's the only car that stayed out. Verstappen's in for the dry tyres. So Piastri, that's his own decision to stay out. As we now come and make our way through up the order into P10, we've jumped Russell, but we have not jumped Verstappen. So Verstappen had so much pace on the Inters that he has stayed ahead of us, but we have undercut the Mercedes of Russell. That is really, really positive. Ahead of Verstappen, then is Norris chasing after Hamilton. Then you've got Colapinto out of sync. He's yet to pit, so he's going for a bit of a, I'm going to call it a glory run in the top 6 here in the Aston Martin Honda. The same for Doohan as well. Sainz has pit onto his dries. Albon, Leclerc, all of these guys on the hard compound though, I'm pretty sure. So we're the only one so far in mediums, and then you've got Piastri still going on for another lap, lap 18. What is he playing at? What is Piastri's play here? This seems like he's throwing away the race win here. He was leading. He had the Ferrari covered as Verstappen, his teammate, making more moves, getting up into P6 now, just flexing how much pace he has as the reigning champion. And on paper, the McLaren is well within our reach of performance. So we should absolutely be aiming to overtake Norris for P7. And if I could finish in P7, that would be a really great finishing in this race, considering the engine failure. Meanwhile, Button in P17, so he's overtaken Antonelli at some point in the Haas, so that's at least good. I'm hoping he could go chasing after Lance Stroll, the other McLaren, and the two Astons hoping to recover with later pit stops. Speaking of later pit stops, Piastri finally is in. Oh wow, this was his play. Piastri went longer by 3 or 4 laps, I think that is, in order to go onto the soft compound. And look at that. He's not even lost that much time. I think Oscar Piastri's absolutely finessed this strategy. He is only 1.5 seconds behind Leclerc, maybe about 2 seconds by the time he gets going here. But he is now on a compound that is 2 steps softer than anyone around him. Everyone else is on hards as Verstappen makes another overtake for P5. My God, Verstappen's AI is actually unreal in this game, isn't he? As Tsunoda makes a move on Ocon to get into P11 for Williams, as we just look at our tyre wear just to make sure we're not absolutely blitzing these tyres. And to be honest, it's looking okay. The tyres are holding on quite well, and they've certainly got the pace for it as we try and go to the outside of the spoon curves. It was always going to be a difficult one to pull off as Lando shuts the door on us mid-corner. It's always a bit audacious for the outside pass, but we have no room to go to the inside of spoon curves. Instead, we'll just keep it tucked in and try and line up a pass maybe after 130R as we tuck in right underneath the rear wing of the McLaren. We go to the left-hand side. Lando goes defensive. It's so close. We give the McLaren all the room in the world to make sure there's no funny business, and we get the overtake. But it's not over yet. We saw in season 1. Oh, no! Piastri with an engine failure. He'll never get to know if that soft tire strategy is going to work because his car's failed him. Oh, it's misery. I guaranteed Piastri would have won. That is so awful for him. That is so awful for him. Piastri's luck not getting any better in Red Bull, it would seem. And Verstappen, all of a sudden now is up to P4. My God, he is inevitable, isn't he, so far? Even with all the amazing fighting, Ferrari Constructors champions going to this season, Verstappen, he's going to still be the toughest cookie to beat. isn't he not? He just appears. He's inevitable as he's up to P4 and probably going on for a podium, I would say, as we are pressing on. We're pulled away from Lando, and we're setting our sights on Hamilton, who is struggling. And just because we're on the mediums and they're on the hards, we know how much better the medium tyre is from Season 1. I think we've got the pace purely because of that tyre compound to catch the Ferrari. As there you go. What did I say? Verstappen gets up into a podium. But you know what? Albon has been elevated because of Piastri's DNF to an amazing P2 for Williams. This is the team we're in a rivalry with, by the way, in game. No chance we're winning that rivalry this season with Williams. I'm hoping it gives us a different rivalry with someone else. Maybe it's going to end up being someone like Ferrari if we can attack them some more in races to come, because we're attacking Hamilton at the moment. We tried a little half dive bomb into the hairpin, but he shut the door. Instead, we pull through to the inside into spoon curves. The Ferrari pinches us, but we've got the racing room to work with, and we get the overtake mid-apex. But now the Ferrari has the swing back. He could get on power much earlier and maybe try for the repass into 130R. Hamilton goes from the right to the left. Oh, it's a very, very close bit of racing as Hamilton grazes the curb, grazes our left rear tyre as we try and slam the door shut and try and push away. And because of the medium tyre advantage, we will push away and get to the end of this race. But the man with the biggest victory today is Charles Leclerc. The reigning Constructors' car comes across the line to win again, and it's only taken the second race this time compared to Season 1. Albon with an amazing second place for Williams, the reigning Drivers' Championship champion though in P3. Verstappen, it's a really great recovery for him. It's a solid P4 for Sainz and Mercedes, and it's an amazing P5 for us driving as Tramnits. What a way to make up for the engine failure. That medium tyre call to come in early to get the jump and then going on the medium compared to everyone else on hards. That was the call. That was the call to get us up the order and make up for the wet portion of this race.
Charles Leclerc, what a drive, what a victory, he wins!
Well, a great performance today by this driver, Crofty, and you could see that they're just at one with the car. Maybe really well adapted to the new regulations. They've clearly done their homework back at base, so fantastic stuff. And you get the feeling they're going to be hard to stop this season.
So in the end, Button only managed P15 frustratingly, so there's maybe going to wait another race to come for double points. Verstappen and Leclerc end this first episode of Season 2 level on points. That's surely got to be a good omen for a good old drivers' title fight, finally. And I'm hoping also in the Constructors as well, as Red Bull and Ferrari are only 2 points the difference. And then look at Williams. What a start for them in third, ahead of Mercedes. We're in P5, to be fair, because it's a much slower start for teams like Aston, Haas and Alpine compared to their R&D chart. But that's the worrying thing, is we've made a good getaway. And that's kind of, we need this sort of good start, because I have no doubt, especially like Alpine, I'm very worried about them finally getting a clean weekend and they just earn a load of points. So it's good to bank 14 points early in that, as I think you'll agree, very topsy-turvy episode with the DNF to a P5. Guys, if you have enjoyed the start of Season 2, be sure to hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.